family. Welcome to day 32 of our Purpose Pursuit. Hope you're enjoying it so far. Yesterday on day 31, we're talking about understanding your shape. And today we're talking about using what God gave you, using your giftings, your talents, your abilities, your experiences, and your personality for the glory of God. And the author begins by saying that God expects us to use our giftings. God expects us to use our talents, everything that He gives us, because in using those, we express gratitude unto Him. We express satisfaction. We express appreciation for the fact that He made us who we are and that He gave us the giftings that He gave us. The next thing is that he lets us know that service is an act of worship. We have to serve not out of obligation, but we have to understand that when we serve others, just as we have talked about loving God and loving our neighbor as ourselves, when we serve others, it shows that we are honoring God. It is an act of worship. And so everyone has a unique role. You do not have to think that you are insignificant. You do not have to think that you have to be like someone else to be used. We talked about the fact that the fingerprints are different and each of us is unique. And because we are all unique, we have a unique role. The author wants you to understand that you are not insignificant. And I want you to understand that God does not think you are insignificant. If He did, He would not have created you. And so you are important. Your role is unique and is important in His plan and in His purpose. You have to also understand that every action matters, not just the big actions like we talked about, but even the little things, the small actions matter. I said this a couple of days ago, that the little things that we do lead up to big things, and every big thing we see, it's a combination of little things. So don't just think about the fact that, oh, maybe if I'm not standing on the big stage doing something big, then I'm not significant. No, every little act of kindness, everything you do, as long as you do as unto the Lord, as long as you do it with a heart of humility and service, it matters. So your role is important. No matter how little you think that your contribution is, it is important. Another thing that the author says here, which is important as well, and I talked about this when I realized one day that conditions are not always going to be perfect. So don't always wait for the ideal condition. Don't say, oh, when I develop myself to a certain level, then I'm going to be able to speak. Or when I develop myself to a certain level, then I'm going to be able to help others. Start with whatever you have. It's in the using of your gifting, your abilities, your talents that you grow. You don't just grow overnight. You exercise the gift, you use the gift, and by so doing, you grow. So start where you are. Don't wait for the conditions to be perfect, because in reality there's never going to be perfect conditions. There's always going to be something that has to be improved, and it is a good thing to have that understanding that there's always room for improvement. Because if you think that there's not going to be anything to improve, or until everything is perfect before you can put yourself out there, then that day would never come, because there's always going to be something that will require improvement. And then the author says this, and we talked about it a couple of days ago, is that we have to resist the temptation to compare ourselves with others. We have to resist that temptation, because when you understand that you are unique, you would do whatever it is that God has you to do or would have you do in your uniqueness. But comparing ourselves to others, it leads to intimidation, it leads to pride, because maybe you can see and say, oh no, I'm better than this person. And then you get puffed up, or you feel intimidated when you feel like, oh, somebody is is better than you. But we have to resist that temptation of comparison, because it leads to pride, and it leads us not to do the things that God wants us to do. The key is that understand that you are unique. You are not like everybody else. And I said a couple of days ago that you would always learn from someone else. You would always learn to add or to shape what you're doing, but not to change your individuality, not to become someone else, but just to be the best version of who you're supposed to be. So you have to focus on what God has called you to do and stay on your lane and do it well. And when you're doing it, the author is saying that you have to do it with enthusiasm. You have to do it with joy. You have to do it with excitement, because that increases your sense of fulfillment. If your head is down, if you're feeling like, oh, you're being pushed to do it and you're not enthusiastic about it, you're not going to really feel the joy and the fulfillment in doing what God has called you to do. So I want you, there was one of my mentors, he said he had something at his headquarters. He said, get enthusiastic in 2 minutes or get out. Because if you're coming to work and you're not enthusiastic, he doesn't want you there, because you will just drag the energy of others. So in whatever area that you find yourself to serve and to do the work of the Lord, you have to be enthusiastic. You have to be happy. And if you feel that joy is not there, that enthusiasm is not there for any reason, that's where you go back and you begin to say, understanding that you are serving the Lord, you're called and you're meant to serve the Lord. That thing that you're doing is as a form of service to the Lord. You're going to go back to the Lord and say, Lord, I am lacking my joy because of one thing or the other. I'm lacking my joy because someone spoke badly to me. I'm lacking my joy because I feel burnt out or I feel discouraged. You have to have that relationship with Him where you talk to Him. And I bet you after doing that, you're going to experience that relief. You're going to experience the comfort. And then you'll even get a word telling you why that situation is the way it is. And God is always going to give you comfort. He's going to give you peace. So yesterday we were talking about this, and you know, so just understand that there will be challenges, but even though there are challenges, you can still find joy. I think that's gonna be in the next chapter, talking about, you know, adversity and challenges. But when you realize that you're feeling weighed down by any reason, go back to God, because He's the one who gave you the purpose, and you are serving for His glory. And when you do that, you're also going to be trusting His empowerment. When you find yourself in a place where you're feeling weak, when you find yourself in a place where you're feeling, you know, weighed down for one reason or the other, you're lacking the enthusiasm, you have to depend on His power. And that's where, as you're talking to Him in prayer, asking for His help, you are depending on Him. You're making Him understand that you're not doing this out of your own strength or your own will or for yourself, but you're doing it for Him. So every moment that you trust Him, you pray, you depend on Him, you are receiving His empowerment. So whenever you want to do that thing that He has you do, don't go and say, oh yeah, I'm skilled, I can do this, I got this. No, yes, you can do it, you got this, but always depend on His power, because He's going to take you through on the good days, and He's going to take you through even on the bad days. He also wants us to understand that we are going to be accountable. This is one thing that really stands out to me, is that there is going to be accountability, and God is going to be tell us on the last day, I gave you this gifting, I gave you this talent, what did you do with it? I asked you to do this, I put this passion on your heart, what did you do with it? So you have to understand, when you're living with that eternal purpose in mind, you have to understand that there's going to be a call to give an account of what you did with your giftings and your talent. So don't bury it. Remember the story of the man with 5 talents, the one with 2, and then the one with 1. The guy who had 5 talents, he used his talents and he multiplied it. The guy who had two talents used his giftings and multiplied it. And the guy who had 1 talent buried his talent and said, you gave me just 1 talent, you're selfish, you're stingy. God gave you one talent because he gave you the strength for one talent. And he gave another person 5 talents because he gave the person the strength for 5 talents. You with one talent should not compare with the person with 5 talents, and you with 5 talents should not undermine the person with one talent, because the person with 5 talents is going to get 100% if they use their talents and get the results, and the person with one talent is also going to get 100% if they use their talents and get the results. So look at that. God's mathematics is even. It's not partial. And so we have to find joy in service. The last thing is that we have to find joy in service. You have to think, always check yourself. If there is anything that is coming against your joy, your passion, your enthusiasm, like we talked about earlier, talk to God about it. Because when you serve in that area where you've been called, it gives you joy, it gives you fulfillment. So if there's any point in time where you're not feeling that joy, you're not feeling that fulfillment, make sure that you're doing an investigative work inside of you. Is it because you're comparing yourself? Is it because you're not being grateful? Is it because you're taking on too much and you're not realizing that it's a step-by-step process? We talked about that. Growth is not instantaneous, it takes time. So there's so many things to consider, but ultimately when you are in your shape and you're serving God in your shape, you're going to find joy, you're going to find fulfillment. And so the question that the author is leaving us with today is, how can I make the best use of what God has given me? How can I make the best use of what God has given me? How can you make the best use of what God has given you? So ask yourself that question. Think about this. I know this book has been packed, giving us so many things to think about. I do hope that you're taking notes. Because like I say, for myself, the reason why I came back on here, on YouTube and sharing content, is because I realized that God has designed me and given me that unique shape, and he wants me to share content with people on video and online. And so you should be able to, at the end of this book, to find that purpose. And when you find yourself in that, you're going to experience joy. I will see you on day 33 of our Purpose Pursuit Star Show here. Please like this video, comment, and make sure that if you've not subscribed to this channel, you do so. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.